But yeah, just to give you what we're going to be running through today, I'll be talking you through the Inbound 2022 keynote. Sam, my colleague here, he's going to be talking through the product updates that HubSpot are delivering. And the final area is that we are going to be going through the any questions that you might have for the team today. Obviously, any questions that you do have, if you've not been before, please just pop them into the channel. Meg, who's with us today, our marketing manager, she's going to be fielding those questions to myself and Sam so that we can answer those at the end of the session. And Meg will also be adding in some useful resources for you to take away from today's session. And if you want to go to the next slide, Sam. So just a very quick overview. I'm Hugh. If you've not been here before, I'm the head of sales here at Fulius. So I explore with a variety of businesses, whether they're on HubSpot or not on HubSpot, what your sort of marketing, sales, and service goals are, how we can utilize the HubSpot software for that system, and how we can make sure that we're mapping everything towards your goals. And I'm joined as ever by my colleague, Sam Banks. Sam, I'll let you do an intro to yourself and what you do here at Fulius.
Yeah, so thanks everybody for joining. So I'm Sam. I basically head up the HubSpot implementation function at Fulius. So again, a lot of the talk today, I'm going to be going through takeaways from the spotlight, the keynote, basically where HubSpot's heading and some of the quick wins hopefully you can take away from today.
Great, thanks, Sam. And if you want to pop to the next slide, that'd be great. And basically, if anybody has missed one of our HubSpot user groups before, we do have a video hub available on one of our pages, which is where you can catch up on all of our previous HubSpot user group events. So typically in our HubSpot user group events, we take one area of HubSpot, we focus in on that, and we basically talk you through an overview of it. And then Sam does a demo of that inside of the environment so you can showcase how that could be implemented as part of your strategy. So we've done previous ones on custom objects, account-based marketing, lead scoring, and we did a Christmas one last year, which was around 12 HubSpot hacks of Christmas. So if you do want to catch up on those, they are available. Great. And today we do have an opportunity for you to win an American sweet hamper, which is worth £20. We're going to let you digest the question now and then get you to give us the answers at the end. Obviously, we saw Barack Obama last week doing a keynote speaker at the very end, but we also got to hear from Dharmesh and Yamini, the CEO and one of the founders of HubSpot. So the question that we wanted to pose to you today is, who would be your ultimate keynote speaker and why? So have a think about that and pop that into the channel at the end. We'll be coming back to that and we'll pick a winner as well for you all. So today I'm going to be going through what happened at Inbound 2022. We're going to be talking about the big topics and all of the key takeaways for the business. But before we go into that, we did take in the sites as a team. We managed to be out there for a week. We went out last Saturday it was, and we didn't arrive back till Sunday, obviously, due to a number of delays with Aer Lingus, which we're not going to go into. But we managed to see everything that Boston had to offer. It's an incredible city if anybody does ever get the chance to go or wants to go to Inbound next year. The 3.5-day event at Inbound was spectacular. It was my first time actually going to the event in person, and I would definitely recommend it. There's so much value to be taken out of there from customers of HubSpot, prospects of HubSpot, as well as understanding what these other software providers can actually do and how it can support your overarching sort of goals as well. So yeah, it was absolutely amazing. I definitely recommend it. So today, what I'm going to focus on is the spotlight session. So this was at the start of the event. It was led by Yamini, the CEO, and Dharmesh, one of the founders of HubSpot, like I said, and they were giving us an insight to what they're experiencing in the industry and what new releases that they were bringing out to HubSpot as well. And Sam, if you want to pop to the next slide. So Yamini really started us off and she explained that businesses are in a crisis of disconnection today. Their systems and data are disconnected because of cobbled point solutions. So they're disconnected from their customers. as buyers tune out to so many saturated channels, and they're disconnected from their peers in a more hybrid world. So across hundreds of conversations with customers, there was one word that kept coming up: disconnected. And HubSpot has discovered that companies are in a crisis of disconnection today, caused by three major disconnects. They're struggling with disconnected systems, disconnected people, and disconnected customers. And I'm going to talk you through those three different areas of disconnects and why it's important. So the first thing that we heard loud and clear, and Sam, do you want to pop to the next slide? Sorry. Is that companies are struggling with disconnected systems. It's always been a problem, but it has gotten worse over the past few years. And HubSpot recently ran a pulse survey to understand the biggest challenges businesses are facing. And the number one pain point was that disconnected systems. And it does make sense when you think about it. So, we've gone through 2 years of a pandemic. And during that pandemic, so many companies shifted to being fully digital overnight. And there was a frenzy of buying point solutions. They bought a tool for every task, every team, every department. And as a result, the average scaling company has 242 SaaS tools today. Now, the problem isn't that the company have a lot of tools. It's the fact that so little of them are actually connected. And each of these systems has its own data and own processes, but there's no one place tying all of these different systems together. So as a result of that, companies are spending more time connecting data than connecting with their customers. So they have to spend hours and hours cleaning data and trying to cobble insights together from different systems. So what's worse is that they don't have a unified view of the customer's journey. So they're working in silos and their customer experience is therefore suffering. So it's a total mess. And that's why when it comes to growth, it's time to accept that disconnected point solutions are not the solution. And I'd be really interested to hear, based on the audience today, how many different SaaS products do you use as part of your sort of software stack? And how many of those are realistically connected? So it'd be really good to get an insight from our audience today, because obviously that's what we heard from the Inbound 2022. But I'd be grateful to hear anything else. The second disconnect, though, is that people have become more disconnected from each other. From quarantining, social distancing, to now working remotely, isolation has become part of our daily lives. Look at me, Sam and Meg, we're all working from home today. And the problem is that we are all human and we do rely on each other for support and for connection. So when I need advice at work, do you know what I do first? I lean on my peers, I lean on Sam, I lean on Meg, I lean on the rest of the business. So I reach out to mentors, I reach out to co-workers, or I reach out to my network for support. But it's become harder to tap into one another because I'm not bumping into them at the office every day. I'm not meeting up at networking events like we used to. So in fact, 45% of workers say that the number of people that they interact with at work has decreased. And 57% of people say that they engage in fewer social activities these days. And I know I'm not alone. And I'm sure, the audience today, you've probably experienced this as well. But when I talk to them, I hear the same thing loud and clear. They really want that sense of community. They want to build deeper relationships with their co-workers, their customers, and their network. But it's not as easy as it once was, especially given what the pandemic brought to us. And the third and final disconnect is that companies are more disconnected from their customers than ever. They're writing blogs at a frenzied pace, but still can't drive traffic. They're emailing prospects, but they can't get a response. The channels and the strategies that used to work for companies now seem to be working against them. So what's changed realistically? And HubSpot and Yamini talked us through this, and they dug into this and they found out that there's two major shifts that are happening. The first is that people are digitally drained. From our social feeds to our inboxes to our text messages, we're bombarded at every single turn. And as a result, buyers aren't engaging with companies like they used to. And you can see that in the data. In 2020, 65% of Google searches ended without a click, and the average blog shrunk by minus 1.64% in 2021. So according to HubSpot data, sales email response rates have also plummeted by 40% compared to pre-pandemic rates. The channels companies have relied on to attract and engage customers are now overly saturated. They're pushing people and ad costs up as well. But the second change is that we are now living in a privacy-first world. People are more protective of their data than ever. And what this means for businesses is that the cookies, tracking, and consent they've depended on are now being cut off in this privacy-first world. Now, buyers today are totally digitally drained, trusting of companies with their data. So both of these shifts lead to companies being more disconnected from their customers than ever. And that's exactly what I hear from some of our customers as well. They're struggling to cut through the noise, to reach prospects, and to build relationships with customers the same way that they used to. So they're coming to terms with a hard truth, which is that the old go-to-market strategies won't work in this new world. And based on HubSpot's research and conversations with customers, these three disconnects are clear. Systems are disconnected, people are disconnected, companies and customers are disconnected. So it all leads to this crisis of disconnection. And companies are struggling with unprecedented disconnection from their customers and each other, compounded by disconnected systems. So for years, relied on legacy CRMs to manage their data, their customer relationships, but that won't cut it in this new world. We believe the companies who will win in the future are the ones that focus on customer connection, not customer management. That means you need more than data, you need context. You need more than leads, you need connection. You need more than contacts, you need community. You need a connected customer growth strategy. Connected customer growth is about optimizing every stage of your customer's journey to boost connection. It's about evolving your attract, engage, and delight strategies to provide more value and relevance. Sam, do you want to go to there we are. But evolving your strategy alone isn't enough. You need the right technology to make connection possible. Connection with your data, your teams, and your community. That's why HubSpot has brought together three powerful parts of their CRM together. Connected applications, so the hubs, marketing, sales, service, CMS, and operations, they're designed to connect your entire front office. They give go-to-market teams a single, unified view of the customer journey. Connected platform, so the CRM platform powers the hubs with connected data, including commerce data and extensibility. The platform is customizable and has over 1,100 app integration partners to give companies flexibility at scale. And connected community, so companies need more than software to grow. So they're bringing together educational content through the academy, as well as assets and expertise through partner networks. And with HubSpot's commerce-powered CRM, you can connect your data, your customers, and your community all in one place. And what's the end result? Well, it's a better connected company, a better connected community, and a better connected customer experience at an even better value to your business. And I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Sam, who's going to be talking you through all of the major product updates from HubSpot this year at Inbound 2022. But I hope you enjoy listening to that keynote speak. And if you do want to understand a little bit more, please do feel free to reach out to me directly on the chat pane or even via my email as well. And I'll pop that into the chat pane now.
Good stuff. Thanks for running us through that, Hugh. Really informative. I think everyone's a bit overly saturated with omni-channel marketing at the moment, so it's always good as we look more to a connected age of technology. So as you mentioned, I'm going to be going through the product updates. Again, I can't cover every single one. There was so many, some of minor value, some of huge value. So we're just going to put together what our favorite ones were split by the different hubs within HubSpot as well. So let's start off with Marketing Hub. So the first kind of improvement that's coming with HubSpot is a bit of an overhaul to marketing campaigns. So if you're on Marketing Hub Pro and Enterprise, what they're now allowing you to do is compiling all of your assets for omni-channel strategies. And you may have also seen this in some of your portals at the moment. You now have newfound collaboration panes on the right-hand side as well, meaning that you can actually support for comment threads, attaching and highlighting comments directly with each individual part of the asset. Meaning that if your team has, for example, comments on the forum that you're putting together for a campaign, you can now highlight that within the campaign screen and actually put comments on that to collaborate much easier and much more efficiently as well. You also have more functionality. So along the top of the campaign, I appreciate it's quite small there, you can actually start specifying your budget, but more as a numerical figure as well. Meaning that you can actually calculate ROI from the same screen a lot more easier in view of all the attribution reports that are already on there as well. Where it's also taken us is that you can now compare two or more campaigns against each other. So being able to understand basically what campaign is actually driving the right meaningful results for your organization, whether that's contacts, whether that's deals, as well as including even more attribution, depending on how deep you want to go when it comes to allocating revenue or even lead generation as well. So they put a huge focus on marketing campaigns. They've got new tabs that are slowly rolling out to portals, and the collaboration features are even better when it comes to working through marketing teams on HubSpot as your central source of truth. Now, probably the biggest one is the WhatsApp integration. So if you are a Marketing or Service Hub Pro or Enterprise, you'll be able to actually build deeper relationships with your customers by being able to connect with them through WhatsApp. WhatsApp actually brings together around 2 billion people worldwide. So this is quite a big of an update in terms of making it one of the strongest ways to actually reach your customers on a time and a platform that's convenient to them. So what you can actually do now is you can connect a WhatsApp business account as a messaging channel in your shared inbox, meaning that if you get messages from WhatsApp, it can actually come into your conversations inbox in HubSpot, so you can respond to it from there. And what you will also be able to do is actually send WhatsApp messages out from HubSpot as well. And that's inclusive of both video and images. So you'll be able actually to send out multimedia messages to your customers or prospects as well. I know in particular verticals such as recruitment, this is a huge step forward when we're speaking with candidates and employees alike. So again, this has been something that's been long asked for quite a while in the HubSpot space, and it's slowly rolling out to the aforementioned tiers and hubs listed above. Any conversations that you have with a contact, so you can see on the left-hand side, one will be in your inbox and you can respond from the WhatsApp connected number. But what you'll also be able to do is see that on the contact record, meaning that you can actually see on the contact record what WhatsApp conversations have been happening with your customer success team when your sales people are looking at the contact record, for example, meaning that no one's left out, everyone has shared visibility. And I'm almost sure that you'll be able to use this either in the midterm or the immediate term in attribution reports. So seeing what the role of WhatsApp is within the process of closing deals and revenue. Now, onto probably my favorite one, and that might say more about me than it does about HubSpot, is customer journey analytics. So if you've used Google Analytics or you're moving to GA4 soon, you're probably familiar with this kind of visualization, which is basically a customer journey. So what you can actually do now, if you're a marketer of enterprise, and it's currently in private beta as of right now, it's looking to release, I believe, in October, is you'll be able to actually see what journeys people take with your campaigns, either on an individual or more of a top level perspective like I've seen on the screen here. It means that you don't need to follow the same formula for every campaign. It means that customers need to feel that their relationship with you is real, so you can actually respond independently to their journey and personalize experiences around that. By using this tool, it's going to let you basically have better visibility on the end-to-end process of individual or groups of customers, and also seeing where your drop-offs are. It's been very difficult up to now, beyond lifecycle stages, to understand where people are falling out of your funnel. Whereas now you can go down to the intricate level of actually, are we promoting an asset that doesn't really resonate with pushing people further down the journey? Or are we missing a gap? Like, is there just a huge drop-off at a certain point? So again, this will be coming out from October. It's for marketing enterprise, and it will work natively with all the standard stuff in HubSpot. So if you're sending emails, if you're just using CTAs, if you've got landing pages, forms set up, this will all work natively with the tool once released and out of beta. So onto data management, data quality. We talked a lot about disconnected systems, and we talked about, okay, we're in a crisis of disconnection. So what is HubSpot doing around the data management tools, and how can we build integrity of data? And the first one is, if you have custom objects, or more specifically, if you're on the Ops Hub, you can actually roll this out in your own portals, which is a data model overview, or what I like to call it, a data visualization. And what this allows you to do is actually see within your CRM is what your actual data infrastructure looks like. So how your different objects in your CRM interact with each other. So can a deal be linked with a contact? Can a deal be linked with a contact with a company? And is that reciprocal? And where that really steps forward is basically if you have numerous custom objects, inheriting a portal this makes it a lot easier, because essentially what you'll be able to do is actually show people visually within HubSpot what the HubSpot makeup and structure looks like. What it will also allow you to do is actually use it as a planning tool. So if you look at this independently in your own portal and you can see your 4 standard objects, you may spot there's a gap. So you may, for example, want a custom object for cars, you may want a custom object for schools, you may want a custom object for referrals. Like you may want to create these new areas of HubSpot that you couldn't visually see the opportunity gap for. So again, this will take in your standard objects and your properties. It will also ensure that your data quality is a lot better, and you can visually plan out if a custom object is actually needed, and ultimately what objects are in use. So you can see how many properties you've got on each object, as well as where it's being associated as well. So again, just really cool, great for operational managers who are managing obviously the tech stack and any IT functions or systems. So I mentioned custom objects quite a lot there. So the reason I mentioned that is because there is a new custom object built Hub. It doesn't matter if you're in sales, doesn't matter if you're in marketing or service, you will now have access to create custom objects all within the HubSpot UI, meaning that you don't have to use APIs or call on development support to actually roll out a custom object. You can actually do this all within your own portal and customize the data around your company. Everything you could do within the API, within reason, you can actually do within this now step-by-step walkthrough. And you can actually make sure that the CRM is set up as your business requires without any coding knowledge, meaning that you can go in as a marketer. If you're the only person that's managing your CRM, you may not have that JSON or your code expertise. So you can now actually just do that within HubSpot itself, meaning you can set up a custom object in minutes. But as always, just because you can doesn't mean you should. Always think about custom objects and ultimately if they're a right use case by using the data visualization tools in partnership with the new builders as well. Okay, so if we thought that wasn't geeky enough, let's go on to property validation. So this is another cool aspect. So if you're on any subscription of the Ops Hub, you can now actually format, I believe, fields in different formats as well. Meaning you can set validation on single line text fields. So there's a minimum character limit, or there's a maximum character limit. Or maybe you only want to allow numerical entries in the single line text. Maybe you don't want to have people put in dollar signs or special characters or underscores or full stops. You can actually omit that from the actual restriction as well. You can also choose if you want to enable it in your search results, meaning that if you're in the HubSpot search bar, you can actually search for this property and any values that sit within it. So basically, this allows people to make sure that the data is entering your CRM in the correct and the appropriate manner, meaning that if you're working with larger orgs or larger functions of sales or marketing, your data entry is being structured, functional, and consolidated, and in partnership with all the stuff we already know on the Ops Hub. So using like the format data and workflows, we can actually use this in conjunction, meaning that if someone was to do it all in caps, we can use a workflow to put that into the desired capitalization as well. So again, they're putting a lot of focus on the Ops Hub for obvious reasons, and it's becoming stronger and stronger by the day. Which moves me on to data quality automation. I mentioned workflows then, but you may have also seen this in your portal. So if you're on Ops Hub Pro or Enterprise, what you can actually do now is through machine learning, HubSpot will actually spot formatting issues, which may be causing you headaches that you wouldn't otherwise have been able to spot. So for example, it will look for records where maybe your first names don't have a capital at the start of them in your marketing emails that go out, address Hugh with a lower H, which obviously doesn't look the best or the most professional, or alternatively on the last name as well. What it will also do is spot basically not just capitalization, but close matches of records. So for example, if you have two records, if you have samuel.banks@fulius.com and you have my personal email, and all the fields I've then provided on both records are the same, HubSpot will flag that as a potential duplicate, where you can actually at bulk merge the records, meaning that you're not paying for two marketing contacts there, you're actually merging them, and meaning your actual correspondence with both those contacts in that instance are held on one central record as well. You can also preview all the records that will be impacted by the change and also see any changes to the records. And you can choose which data quality recommendations you want to apply. You don't have to apply all of them. You can only apply certain ones if you choose to do so. So again, keeping your data in quality in check is great as well. Now, we talked a lot about data there. So how do we get better visibility on that data? And the quick answer is that it's the data quality command center, which is quite the mouthful, as I like to call it, the data quality dashboard. And that's available to anyone on Pro and above on the Ops Hub. It's in public beta at the moment. It should be in your portals and should be rolling out, but if you're not, you should be able to enroll yourself into it. And what this allows you to do is actually have a lot more awareness. So on the right-hand side there, you can see basically this was very much the old visualization of it. You can actually click into each of these different properties, record, data sync, and it will actually show you how many of your properties are in use, as well as how many properties don't have values in them. It will show you how many records haven't been used. It will show you any data sync errors as well, meaning that if you've connected Salesforce, Microsoft Dynamics, if you've connected, I'm not going to list every different SaaS product on the market, because given what Hugh said earlier, there's 1,100 plus, so I'm not going to list them all. But basically, if you've got a data sync set up, you can actually troubleshoot that a lot easier. And one of the cool things that I've not mentioned on this slide is if you have data syncs going into HubSpot, previously you wasn't able to see what data sync was pushing the record into HubSpot. It just said via API or sync. Now it will actually tell you which data sync is actually pushing it in. So again, they're making huge improvements, minor ones, like I just said, or huge ones in terms of the data quality command center, allowing you to fix errors from a centralized space, which is great if you're an operational or IT manager or just managing data for your organization. Which takes us on to CRM customization. So data is great, but it's all about how do we structure the data once it's in the account and it's all in the right area. And for a long time, and I can recall pretty much every conversation I've had on this, is that you could not customize the right-hand sidebar. Well, as of today, you can. If you're on Pro, you can actually customize the right-hand sidebar. So that is where your associations sit. Not the left-hand side where you put in your fields on a record, but you will now see if you go to your contacts object and your settings, you should be able to customize the right-hand sidebar. You can actually do this by team. So for example, if you're on enterprise and you've got team-based permissions, you can say if the marketing team has a left-hand sidebar, the marketing team can also have a right-hand sidebar, meaning that the marketing team doesn't have to see your LinkedIn Sales Navigator as a card on the right-hand side. So you can do it team-based or globally set that for your CRM as well. It means that you can reorder it. You can also remove certain cards if you're not using it, like org charts or LinkedIn Sales Navigator, or maybe tickets isn't a fit for you guys as an organization. So you've now got complete flexibility on that right-hand sidebar of a record. And again, you can actually bring in more and more data, and HubSpot is creating CRM cards even much easier from a development point of view, meaning you can actually create your own cards to set on the right-hand sidebar if you have development resource. So that's that. That's the right-hand sidebar. Huge movements there from HubSpot. Now, the other thing that was a bit of a friction point for customers on HubSpot is historically you could only log calls, notes, meetings. That's pretty much it. Like, you couldn't actually go into any more granularity with that. But now every hub, doesn't matter what plan you're on, you can actually log wider categories of activities. So you can log anything from SMS to now LinkedIn in-mails to WhatsApp messages and even postal mail, so physical direct mail. So you can actually log that on the CRM, and you guessed it, you can actually report on that as well. So you can actually, rather than just chucking everything under call when actually it was an SMS, or chucking everything under a meeting when actually it was just a LinkedIn chat, you can actually now hyper-relevant put those in the right places. You can then report on those for activity reports, and it also allows you to actually restructure. So you can actually reorder which activity buttons are more frequent in your organization. So you may find that actually most of our phone calling is done through our integrated VoIP system. So making a phone call at HubSpot isn't that common, so it might sit last on the list. Alternatively, you may use notes a lot, so you may want to sit that at the top of the list. So you can actually reorder the buttons as well. As I mentioned, anyone with a Service or Sales Hub customer, you can actually create custom cards, meaning that you can actually build those out in the CRM with a bit of development support as well. Which takes us quite nicely onto sales and service. So the big one, inbound calling, it's kind of been around for a while, but they're adding more and more improvements to it. So sales and service Hub Starter and above will have the ability to allow your customers to reach out to you. It means that your reps can now have unique phone numbers through HubSpot to place outbound and inbound calls. And you can also have that routed to your personal phone as well. So you don't have to ring from your personal phone. You can have a company phone number that's in the CRM, but then the call actually comes through to the personal phone number. So it doesn't expose it, but it allows them to have it from a device that obviously they use quite frequently. If you're pro and above, you can actually record, transcribe, and coach based on transcriptions. So you may be familiar with systems such as Gong or Evolma, where they do this natively as an integration. Whereas in HubSpot, you can actually do that. So it will track the keywords you say on calls. It will track the talk time. It will track how much of the call you spoke for versus the prospect. So it allows you to, if you're overselling to someone, you can rein that in, or you may be underselling to someone. So you may want to actually go and double down on that as well. So this is great for sales managers, sales coaching, understanding basically where things are falling down on a more micro level as well. Okay, big one, custom goals. So if you're on sales or service enterprise, historically, you could only report on meetings booked, phone calls logged, and I believe revenue. Now you can actually create your own custom goals. It pretty much opens the whole product. So you can actually set your own custom goals based on an integer-based field. If you've got a deal property, you can basically create a custom goal on it. You can also keep them up to date automatically with changes that are made, which will be reflected in the progress bar. And it just allows you to align your stakeholders with notifications based on achieving, exceeding, or missing goals. So you can actually use the goal in workflow logic as well. So you can get notifications through the actual tool if your goal is due to be hit, if you're on track, if you're above track when it comes to setting goals as well. Meaning that basically you can now open up HubSpot to track what you need to track rather than being just limited to revenue, meetings booked, and meetings booked. So that's cool. Moving on, we do have deal management. So what we can actually do here is that it's really familiar with sales teams and sales leads I speak with, that it's a bit of chaos when it comes to an influx of new clients and complicated orders into the pipeline. So what you can actually do now is, you may have been familiar when you look at your pipeline, you can have 3 fields that sit on the preview card that you can see at the pipeline level without going into the record. Historically, what you could only do is actually basically customize these 3 fields for the whole account. Meaning if you have different pipelines for different purposes, you have to select the 3 that are the best fit and most universal across the pipelines. You can now do that individually to each pipeline. So for example, if you have a renewals pipeline, you may want to be tracking current MRR on the account. So you may want to put that as the deal preview property. If you're doing a sales pipeline, you may want to do deal probability or the deal owner, etc. So you can actually customize the 3 fields for each individual pipeline, and they can differ across the pipelines. So that's really cool. And they've also made a lot of improvements to forecasting and deal management. So there's the new goals app, as I've just mentioned, team goals, and also a better integrated forecasting. We also find that forecasting area of HubSpot gets missed out on a lot of the love. So they're trying to make that a lot more accessible, a lot more intuitive. If you are using that, kudos. It's a great feature. Definitely have a look into that as well. So again, just a few UI updates that are added to it just to make it even more flexible around your organization. So in terms of communities, so Dharmesh, as well as his allowance of free dad jokes as part of his keynote, he talks about building communities, and this is where the ROI kind of sits. That's where HubSpot want to move to. So what they're actually talking about is more in terms of the next generation network for growth professionals. So they're actually introducing a new place, which is called Connect.com. Connect.com is not just for HubSpot partners, it's for customers, it's for HubSpot themselves, and it's a place to actually showcase your professional skill set, being able to access career opportunities and seek out expert advice from a global ecosystem as well. There's, in terms of what you can get in store, there's 8-week cohort learning programs, there's new partner accreditations, there is community-led study groups, there is almost pretty much anything when it comes to HubSpot. It's basically a digital meeting place. It's free, it's accessible, it's open now. I think there's only about 4,000 accounts on it as of now. So claim your username, try and get the one you want, and start networking. Pretty much leading agencies are on there, key HubSpot individuals are on there, and probably people similar to people on Hug are also on there as well. And if you did miss Dharmesh's show keynote, we will follow up with that in our post summary email. And with that all said and done, that's kind of my bit. I'm going to hand back over to Hugh just to close out.
Thanks, Sam. No, I think everything that you talked about there was amazing. I think the only feature that wasn't mentioned that I found really useful was HubSpot are now releasing customizable lifecycle stages. A massive pain point for a number of our prospects or for some of our customers as well is that HubSpot always had a view of it needs to be a lead, MQL, SQL opportunity, customer or other. And there was some frustration that didn't fit into businesses are used to. So they're now being more flexible with that. So now you can customize the life cycle stages based on what your architecture would look like from that respect. But no, Sam, really enjoyed that. Thanks so much for talking us through it as ever from an everybody, I would recommend to join that connect.com. I'm on there now. It also showcases how many HubSpot certifications that you've done. So if you've not done many, it just won't show up. So get some of those done before you do sign up, would be my recommendation. We've had some questions that have come through. Meg, do you want to talk us through some of the questions that Sam can answer?
Yeah. So we had a question early on from Akin around the customer journey analytics tool. He was wondering whether or not it will work across non-HubSpot websites.
That is a very good question. So the quick answer for that is if you can track it currently in HubSpot, it will work on the customer journey analytics as well. Meaning that if your tracking code is on a website page or an external landing page, it should fall into as a page view. And as you saw on that screenshot earlier, page views was one of the attribution points. You don't have to be limited to the CMS to be able to use that function. You'll be able to see drop-offs as well through the tracking code because it does detect bounces, I believe.
Good. Hopefully that answers your question, Akin. We had one from Conrad around the property validation tool. It was kind of more of a question rather than he wants to be able to set a limit on the number of characters in a single line text. Is that a feature of that now that you can do?
Yep. So you can limit the amount of characters full stop. So for example, if you had a title field that's text and you wanted to limit that to 5 or so characters, you can do that. That's a really poor example. You probably do it as a drop down, but the premise is there. If it's single line text, doesn't matter what the format, you can put property validation on. The only caveat to that, as I was on a call with HubSpot yesterday, is it's not retrospective. So it only applies for new properties going forward, which is a bit of a complication, I do appreciate, but just to make you guys aware.
Okay, cool. And then finally, we had one from Ellen. Does the inbound calling feature need a third integration for a phone number?
Nope. So you can either use a phone number that you choose and specify, or HubSpot can provide one for you. You don't need any additional integrations from a VoIP system or anything like that. HubSpot calling is very much a standalone product, the equivalent of deals in HubSpot, basically. It's going to become a large part of their products and the sales pitch going forward as well.
Nice, thank you, Sam. That was it for questions, unless anyone's got anything else they want to throw quickly in the chat window while we've got some time at the end.
Doesn't look like we're many questions. So Sam, that must be done your job right today.
Thanks, Hugh.
Everything's well explained. As we obviously circled towards the end of the session today, obviously we asked you that question at the start, and there is a £20 American Suite hamper up for grabs here. So please do let us know in the chat pane who would be your ultimate keynote speaker and why. I hope you've all been thinking about this throughout the last 42 minutes. Here we go. Comrades come straight in here. Walt Disney, obviously. Yeah, I think we should have specified that. Dead or alive is allowed. Yeah, we have that conversation all the time internally. Rachel's coming with Winston Churchill as well. Sorry, Comrade, I've not even had a chance to read all the reasons here, but I'm going to definitely make sure I do. Ellen, yes, it is going to be recorded. It's going to be on our video hub. And Meg, is it going out in the recording?
Yeah, it will be out this afternoon, so you'll get all of the slide resources and any links we've mentioned. We'll throw them in there as well.
Great. Thanks, Meg. Any others who want to be involved in the £20 American Sweets hamper? Cassie's come through. Emmeline Pankhurst. Nice. I like the Riesling as well, Cassie. It's a good one. Still trying to go through Conrad's response as well. Oh, that's brilliant. And Kirsten's still thinking. I don't know. Who would you choose, Sam and Meg? Obviously, you've seen Barack, so you've gone, that's top tier so far. So who else would you pick?
Sam, you can go first.
Thanks, Meg. I was hoping you were going to go first. That's really difficult. It's difficult for me because they all do inbound anyway. Dharmesh and Brian already speak. So
you want Kyle Jepson up on the big stage?
No, he's it's a really difficult one. I don't want to do an injustice to this question, so let me come back to you and submit my answer.
That's all right. We've got one of our internal employees starting to take the mick here, saying Sam would pick Frank Lampard. That was Johnny, Sam. So don't.
It's a shout, yeah. As long as it's not a press conference, because I feel like that would just irritate me.
Yeah. And then I guess just while everybody's thinking, look, we're always happy to help any of our customers. We're always happy to help any of our sort of network as well. We've talked a lot about meeting people in the right place, connecting with your community. Very much the HubSpot user group, we see that as a community. We always want to be able to support you in any way possible. We do offer a free HubSpot portal audit. It's essentially where we understand how you're utilizing HubSpot, what features and tools that you're utilizing. We build out recommendations on what other areas that you could be utilizing, or some of the tools that you may not be utilizing to the most effectiveness as well. So if you do ever want us to do that for you free of charge, please do let us know. We've had a couple more that have come through. Oscar Wilde and Elon Musk. Rebecca, interestingly, we think he's going to be the next keynote at Inbound next year. I said, how do you top Barack Obama? And I think Elon Musk is probably the because he's very much involved in the tech space as well. And I think the majority of the audience would be used to it. Sam and Meg, you're not getting away with this, by the way, before we wrap up for today.
I do think Elon Musk is a good shout. I think he's a bit of a wild card. You don't know what he's going to say. You don't know what he's going to do. So it would be interesting.
I still don't have an answer. You've really put me on the spot here. And I'll just call that out. I don't mind if I'm on a web, but I really am on the spot. Ask me a HubSpot question. I can answer that. Come back to me. I don't want to do an injustice. I can put it in the wrap-up email so everyone knows my opinion.
Yeah, we want to know that. We want to know that. So, guys, if anybody else has got any more answers for that to be entered into that draw, please do let us know. But also, we are going to be releasing our next HubSpot user group event very soon. And as we talk about the community, we want our community to let us know what you want to learn about as well. So we could talk through why people should upgrade from Pro to Enterprise, or from Starter to Pro to Enterprise. We could talk about syncing up Salesforce and HubSpot if that's something that you want to hear about. We can talk about building the perfect tech stack with HubSpot at the heart of it, or something totally else. We're totally open to topics. We want to know by you, our audience, in terms of what we discuss, because we'll go away, we'll plan it, and then we will schedule that in. So if anybody does have any recommendations on what they would like us to discuss, that would be great. I see Abby's already put in building the tech stack sounds good. I think that would be a really good topic, if I'm perfectly honest, but that's probably a little bit biased from me. So let's hear from you guys. So if there's anything that you do want us to specifically discuss, that would be great.